It is Thursday, the 19th of October, and I'm going to call a meeting of the Concord Solar Information Task Force to order. And first item on our agenda this evening is the minutes of October 5th. And the Zoom just disappeared. It's there. It's still there. Okay.
We're here.
Has some technical issue where the entire screen just kind of went.
So Brian, we're gonna have to keep doing that because it's timing out.
Is there a timeout feature?
That's not why. All you did was touch the pad, right?
Oh, I touched the icon, the Zoom icon at the bottom.
Okay. Well, I don't know what happened, but anyway, so we have a set of minutes that were provided in the packet today. I've given a tremendous amount of time to read over them. I don't know if everybody's ready to engage on this. If you are, I guess we will dive in. That's the agenda. Is everybody comfortable reviewing this?
Well, diving in, how would you like to proceed? Just
well, proceeding would basically, usually the way minutes are reviewed, people read them in advance, make their annotations, and then bring any changes to the meeting. I don't want to read them in real time. If we haven't reviewed them, and it's a 5-page minutes, we can pass and we'll take them up next time around.
Well, I have reviewed them.
What's that?
I have reviewed them.
You have.
I don't think I've reviewed them to the level necessarily that I should have, but whether we decide to come back and finish the meeting review next time or not, I still want to make my comments.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay? Yeah, so if you're in a position to make comments, I think we're Gavin, are you comfortable? Are you good with reviewing the minutes today, or have you not had a chance to look at them?
I haven't had a chance to look at them closely. I apologize.
That's all right. There hasn't been a lot of time,
so we can then make some comments tonight and then come back to them next time.
Yes, we can leave this. Okay. We can put this on the table and come back to it next time. But if you'd like to make some comments,
yeah, I would, because I think they're relevant to the other things that we're going to talk about tonight. At the last meeting, a couple of things that are kind of critical to these projects in terms of being able to model them and understand them and cost them and so forth came up. And I asked some clarifying questions after there was some initial discussion. And I'm not sure that the clarity in the answers that I got is reflected in the minutes. And let me just say what those 2 points were. One point was, or one question was, is there any requirement for the first 2.5 megawatts of solar on that, and I'll just be specific, in the CCHS campus location and landfill location total in aggregate, is there any requirement, on the system for storage? And the answer from Dave was no. And I was very careful to ask the question in a very specific way, and I'm not sure that the minutes are very explicit with this point.
Okay.
So the second question I asked was,
Hi, Phil.
Hi, Phil.
Let the minutes reflect that Phil Villers is back.
Back from the dead.
He's back. He truly is
back from the dead.
Well, I know about that, but I was on a coma for 3 days.
Oh my God! I was on a coma for 3 days too. No.
Then you know what it's like.
Yeah.
Don't remember a thing.
We're just going through a couple points on the minute. So the second question I asked, and I think is important for the minutes to reflect properly and succinctly, was a question having to do with infrastructure. And the question was, are there any obstacles or impediments in terms of the equipment structure and capacity and all that other good stuff on the grid between these two sites and the transformers on Forest Street that would cause a problem for the implementation of 2.5 megawatts of solar in these two locations, other than the potential need for transformers, which need to be sized,
And
if-
whose
if required, which need to
availability
be
is
sized.
very
Wait,
long.
hold on. So did you get those?
Yeah, no, I'm taking your notes, yeah, so. I
Okay,
think,
so those are two, clarifying points that I asked. I'm not saying the answer should be X or Y. I'm just saying what the question was that I asked. I'm saying what the answer was that I got. And those were the answers.
And
Well, and I think the comment was, the only thing that David said was, we might need to upgrade the transformer.
Yes,
You
that's what I
just
said.
that.
I
Yeah,
said,
okay, yeah,
we might
that's
need to
the only
upgrade
thing.
we might need to upgrade the transformers. We don't know. It sounded like it was limited to one transformer, and there was some dependency to aggregate size of the
Yeah.
kilowattage.
and may I
Is
add
that-
an
is that
addi-
fair? Gene, did you hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
may I add an additional question from what we've read? Availability of transformers, which apparently is a problem.
Can you participate in a discussion of minutes? I guess you can, even though you weren't here for the meeting.
Well, he's not looking to add something to the minutes. That.
Just
that
asking.
wasn't- Yeah, no,
Yeah, there is a question as to availability, but
that's not what Charles.
that's neither here nor there. Yes, there are questions as to availability.
Because you've made some very important points, and I was suggesting that one further point needed to be added.
Well, it can't be added to the minutes.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I assume there'll be more discussion about these two items, but I think the minutes should reflect that. We did have quite a bit of discussion about those two things in the meeting, as you recall. It was a lot of back and forth and trying to get understanding, and that's what we came up with.
I have a message from my husband,
Yeah.
Steve.
yeah.
Oh.
So.
Well, anyway.
Hello there.
He's on. I got him.
There he is.
He's good.
He's still standing.
He was going to, he was going to something, I don't know.
Otherwise, to be honest, I thought the minutes were pretty comprehensive and looked pretty good. I'll take a more of a look at them, but
Okay.
yeah.
So,
All right.
I just have a question about minutes,
Yeah.
and it's like, there's another way we could do it too, like, I'm sorry, I don't know. I could distribute them, collect feedback, modify them, and then give them to you. Is that sort of, it's actually easier.
It's been the practice of every committee I've been in that people bring their feedback to the meeting and they offer it at them. So let's do it that way.
Well,
That's fine, I don't care, it's just
Yeah.
like,
Well, let's
like
talk-
delay the minutes. that's all.
No, it's fine.
let's talk a little bit about minutes then, because it make it easier for
Oh, by the
other
way,
people that have to do it.
Gavin, oh, no, you're here. You're up to
I
do
think I'm
minutes
here.
today,
Yeah.
just for the record.
Ooh,
Yes.
So,
Well, there will be a recording that you can go through.
Yes, yes.
so
Don't go crazy.
thank you.
when I did the minutes, I had a lot of difficulty, and I think you probably did too, Steve, listening to the tape and trying to understand, well, what's going on here? There's a lot of back and forth and deep discussion and trying to note, who will find about what and who said, all this kind of stuff. And what I had to do is I had to kind of do this detailed thing, and then I had to look at it and say, well, what's really salient stuff that came out of that part of the agenda item. And then I tried to write that up.
That's the correct.
That's the right
Try to
way.
write that.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, Mr. Parker, and so forth.
Yeah. All right. So,
And I hope that would make it easier for the next guy.
right, given that we are going to take a motion on these minutes till the next meeting, I'll just move into the chair's report.
I think that's a good idea.
I'm not saying one thing in a minute.
Well, I just have these, I'll give you, but I might have more if I'm giving it a shot at it. Okay, as far as the chair's report, one of the things that I did as a chair, I did two kind of global things since we last met. One was I attended a governance meeting for chairs of committees in town. It was held last Sunday. It was held by Henry Dane. Kari Tari gave a presentation, and Jason, that was his last name, our IT director, also gave a presentation on security. And one of the things Kari did say in her PowerPoint was, you are not necessarily required to capture who said what. You are trying to just create. You are trying to create a record of the meeting, and it is not an absolute requirement that this person said that, and then this person said that, that is not necessary. So that was part of her PowerPoint. The main takeaways at the governance meeting were just reminders of that we need to observe open meeting law, what all the different constraints are. We all have a guidebook that was handed to us when we signed our paper.
I mean, like this?
Yeah, but yours is now, the interesting thing is, Phil, that is now out of date.
Oh.
So at this meeting, at this meeting, a new handbook was provided, but it is also online, so you don't need to always carry it with you. It is available online. But Kari rolled out a new one. It has a blue cover. You know, it's got a different color cover. So there's a new committee handbook that has been updated. So that's was one piece of it, and obviously concerns about not just following open meeting law, but you know, all the anti-corruption training that we're supposed to be taking was reinforced at that meeting. The other piece of the puzzle was Jason, the IT director, really looked at all of us as town employees as being a vulnerability surface, a way in to the town's resources and assets. And so what we are considered almost the weakest link in the process. Town employees are regularly grilled and they're tested. They have phishing tests where they contract with to send in phishing emails to town employees and then they check for rates.
Oh my God.
Yes,
For
check for rates of
blabbing.
success of being of clicking
Click on a
through.
link.
Oh,
They're
clicking
clicking on
through. Yeah,
links
yeah, yeah.
or otherwise being suspect. We are not subject to these kinds of tests. We're not constantly having our radar, checked. We are, however, considered a trust relationship with town staff. And so if we were to send something to town staff requesting something, they would be in a trust relationship with us, and they would be likely to respond in a way that, reinforces that trust relationship. So if we get hacked, and then we in turn double hop into a town staff member, they are now trusting us, and we create a weak link. So we have to be on our guard. We have to be careful about phishing emails. We are part of the town. We're town employees, and we need to be careful. That's all. That was the main message: is be careful. And there are some resources that Jason made available, links that I think I can forward to you folks regarding that. And then Carmen went through the town meeting process and the calendar and getting things on. And she also pointed out that in the event that something comes up in the process of another committee's work for which we would have an opinion, or it would be important to us, it's kind of in our jurisdiction to think about what we want to say at town meeting if we want to say anything. So that it's unlikely that we would have that kind of overlap. There's probably it's more likely that, say, the light board would have an opinion about something if we wanted to bring an article. They might have an opinion about that, but it's kind of less likely to go the other way around for this particular committee. But
The last time I received an improper letter was 2 days ago.
well, I'm sure it happens all the time. I get all kinds of stuff in my.
So how would a warrant article be put together? What do you say about that?
What I'm saying is that there are two roles that we could have made. One would be to offer our own warrant article, in which case Carmen was alerting us to the calendar, to the process for creating a warrant article, to getting your appointing authority involved, like let's say we go to the select board or however this is going to be done. So she was going through that in the event that we wanted to offer one. But even if we're not offering one as a committee, we need to kind of keep our eyes open to what other committees are doing and what other items are on the warrant, and are they something that we would be turned to for our opinion, and we should be prepared in the event that there's something on the warrant that we would potentially be asked to opine on. So that's just, even though you don't necessarily offer an article, your committee may be in a position that needs to opine. And would be asked from the floor, well, what does the solar task force think about this? And we should be ready to have
Of
something
course.
to say. We should at least review the warrant and see what's on there and see if there's anything that we would want to take a position.
Well, if we were to offer a warrant, put a warrant article together, we would do it through Mary and the select board and the town manager.
Yeah.
Would be
Yes,
all
that's how we would do it.
That's the institutional
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Right? That's the only way we would do
Yeah,
it.
we would go through our appointing authority.
Right.
And now, it may be that we would, because the article might involve debt issuance in order to fund a solar array. It may be something that the light plant takes on,
Yeah.
but we'd have to kind of navigate through select board,
Right.
get the light plant or whatever. One
Yeah.
way or another, there's gonna be a
Right.
little bit of a pathway through
Right.
to get there, if we get there at all. So, so those are the three presenters, and then we had breakout sessions where Kari sat at one table, and, Henry Dane, and then Carmen sat at another table, and Jason sat at another table and talked about these things in a roundtable setting. You could ask questions. It was good, good session. So, that was one thing that I did. The other thing I did, I went to the chair's breakfast. Not really too many takeaways there, for our committee. The 40B, the Board of Appeals has all the materials for the 40B proposal up on their website. If you want to review them, obviously we would love to see some sort of relationship with the light board and the light plant to get them to include some solar with the proposal. That is a ticking clock, 180 days from, I don't know, like a month ago or so. About 180 days until the town is required to kind of close the hearing and close all the.
For those of
negotiations.
us whose memory is imperfect, what is
40B is a bypass policy that in the event that the town does not have a 10% affordable housing stock index, 10% of our housing does not qualify for the state's definition of affordability.
Right.
If you're below that, let's say 9%, which is where we are right now, a developer can bypass the zoning and come back with what's called a comprehensive proposal, meaning I'm going to do this subdivision and you really can't stop me. I'm going to propose this, and it may violate some of your planning things, as long as it helps get you move you forward towards affordability.
Thanks for the reminder.
So that is what 40B is. So because our current affordable housing index is below 10%, we are subject to these sorts of applications. And you can't really push too hard back, but so
Well,
you kind of do a dance with the developer to get out of it the best result that you can get.
So who's staying on from this committee? Who's staying on top of the 40B situation?
Right now, we don't have anybody assigned.
Well, but it's just being monitored.
Yeah.
So,
By- Monitored by.
Oh, I mean, I'm watching it because I'm watching the project in general, not
Yeah.
because it's
Oh,
solar,
okay.
but I'm watching it.
Well, the question, I guess, is what should our role be in trying to kind of move our priority with some solar in the development?
You want to answer, try to get an answer now, or you want to bring it up later?
I think it's not on our agenda. I just thought I'd bring it to your attention that we'll see what these out there.
Well, I would just say parenthetically, if I will, that some of these things escape us. These projects all of a sudden, they're another, well, now it's too late. Right. So it would seem that we ought to have some sort of a watch process on these big opportunities that are going on. You've got that one. You've got certain public buildings are
Right.
You got that roof over it.
Laura, would you like to comment on that? Because I know that in past meetings, Dave has said he's, quote, talking to these folks. You're muted.
Sorry. Dean, what is your specific question about that?
About that, I'm just wondering if Dave has engaged, or the light plant has engaged in any communication with the developers to encourage solar over at in that development.
He's talking about 300 Baker Ave.
Yeah, of course. Yes, we have had a number of discussions with the developer over the last couple of years. Recently, we engaged in a site visit out there to look at their proposed plans. you know, they have scaled way back on their ambitions for that property.
No,
There's
this
two,
is a
there's
different
two things
project.
here, Laura. One is the existing building and the huge parking lot that's over there, but there's also a housing development that has been proposed to the town, which I'm generally calling the 40B project, but there's a name to the development. I forgot. What's it called?
Nova.
Nova, something like Nova.
Novo Northside, I think. Yeah, no,
Riverside.
I'm aware of that. So when we've had discussions with them, the discussions have covered both issues. The solar at 300 Baker and then the new build and where the electrical infrastructure might happen, what the battery needs might be over there. And whether or not there could be solar on a parking canopy and or on the rooftop of that new residential development. So yes, we have been in discussions with I can't remember the name of the company that's running this. Patrick Jansen, I think is the name of the guy. But anyway, yeah, we've been talking with them on and off. Yep.
There, we have some, at least the white plant has some
Yeah.
feelers out there. So,
And they're
It might be
being,
good, it might be good to put this, structure this into our weekly agendas or bi-monthly agendas, where we just ask the question, anything new on the 40B stuff? Anything new that's relevant or pertinent, so that we don't kind of let this stuff slip.
Right.
Is that
It's there,
okay?
you know, it's there. You know, it's fine. We can certainly do that. Okay, so, other things I've been up to in the interval between our last meeting and now. I reached out to the school committee, and I will save those comments to the agenda item where we're talking about the work, the potential work at CCHS. So I also, you know, attended one of the meetings and et cetera, et cetera. But I'll bring that forward during that talk. So, that's pretty much it for my chair report. It's been a busy 2 weeks for me. Okay, so the next item, Laura, is something that came up, I think, at a light board meeting. Where was this?
Yeah,
Where did
it
this
did.
come up?
it did.
And it has something to do with a requirement for battery on-site storage, which sort of cuts against Charlie's recollection and what the minutes ought to reflect from the previous meeting, which was that it was not a requirement for the sites we were looking at. And can you just clarify what this policy is, what the source of the policy is, and what the intent is?
You're on mute again.
I don't recall the date upon which this policy commenced, but we have had it in place for some time. So that anyone requesting to install solar facilities with a capacity greater than 50 kilowatts are required to co-locate a battery in a capacity equal to their solar output less than 50 kilowatts. So in other words, if they wanted to put up 70 kilowatts, they would need to put up a 20 kilowatt battery. So they get the 50 sort of free, and then anything above that needs to be matched with a battery. And the idea here was that, you know, we recognized we were getting very close to solar saturation, which in the current environment is an untenable situation for us. And in order to be fair to all ratepayers, whether they're located on the good bus bar or the bad bus bar, right, we had to come up with a rule that said there's only so much additional solar that we can integrate before we run into problems. And so this 50 kilowatts was established as sort of a buffer or a maximum in order to enable, you know, additional people to build out solar, particularly residential, who are only putting in 10, 15, 20 kilowatt systems. You know, we want to enable them to continue to build solar out, but we couldn't just have a blanket agreement that we could accept any amount of solar because we were running up against the solar saturation. So that was really the derivation of the 50 kilowatt sort of litmus test. And we've been applying that, for the last, I want to say at least a couple of years. As I said, I don't remember the exact date.
So
It was June 23rd, June 2023, I saw on the policy at the top of the, it may have, the first iteration may have been a lot earlier. but-
So
Yeah,
that'll
I think it was a lot earlier.
on our work.
well,
No, not necessarily. Both statements can be true. Dave gives us the capability to go ahead without solar for our two projects. And the policy stays,
for the private,
Because they
commercial
would
and
make
private.
an exemption, you mean?
well, not an exemption. No, it's just,
We have 2.5.
just the way we're gonna do it.
Then,
I wouldn't make an issue where there isn't one.
okay,
Unless somebody wants to make an issue, let's wait for
That's why
that.
it's on the agenda. I think.
Pardon me?
I think that's why it's on the
Yeah,
agenda, right?
yeah.
It's absolutely clear.
Right. So right now, we're proceeding under the assumption that the light plant projects can optionally include solar if they need it, or if they're put in a place where it would absolutely be a requirement, then yes. Like if they're on the wrong bus bar, then absolutely. But we're working with the actual engineering, which would allow a little bit more latitude for town projects and light plant projects.
So I don't think we've made a decision that any projects that are identified by the solar task force would automatically, be exempt from this 50 kilowatt maximum. On the other hand, what I would say is there's a difference between trying to establish a policy that is consistent and can be applied to any customer within the service territory, and looking at locationally specific projects by the solar task force that we know, to be located in a particular spot. The other thing that comes into play here is that when we came up with this policy, we were not aware that the metering domain was going to be an option. So that has sort of been free found money, if you will, from a perspective of solar development, where this has given us this breathing room or this buffer of 5 megawatts.
So just, it's a little off to the side, Laura, this question that I have. The metering domain, does that require re-engineering at the substation? My
Yes.
understanding
Yes.
is, okay, so that's still required, even though it's not the previous regime. I've forgotten the name of the previous regime, but the metering domain doesn't require as much from Eversource on their side. They can use their same meters or whatever, so they don't have to make so many changes. But we would still be required to make significant changes at the substation in order to support it, right?
That's correct.
So
Well, what that means is that we're not explicitly required to have storage for the two projects that we've
for the
identified.
two projects. that we've
But, there is some requirement to do either curtailment or the gateway at Forest Ridge, whatever you want to call it, the metering domain.
If we go past 2.5, we're gonna need.
Or you need to buy a battery.
Oh, one way.
But we could do-
The three
you could
options.
also do-
Right.
You could also do curtailment rather than.
Yeah.
Rather than the metering domain.
Yes, you could just curtail it, you could just throw it away. As long as we are in a position to manage our own energy as opposed to contracted energy, which would cost us to throw away.
And that building needs the SCADA.
One way or another, we need to be able to control these sites.
Yeah, right.
We need to control these sites, so that's a different problem. We are a little behind, but not far on the agenda, so I'm gonna move to the next item, which is, and Charlie was kind of pointing to it in his comments about the minutes. And that is that at the current time, we're looking at two high priority sites, the landfill and CCHS. And how do we get to the understanding of whether or not we need a transformer, two transformers, and as Phil was pointing out, lead times? Can you comment on that, Laura? We would love to be able to, put that discussion kind of behind us if we can. I don't know how we get to an answer on that.
So I think, based on my conversations with engineering recently, it's fair to assume that we would need a specific transformer for each one of those projects.
Yeah.
And in terms of the lead time, it depends on the size of the transformer. The latest lead times I saw were a minimum of 10 months. But there were some that we put in a transformer order recently, that were deliveries staggered over 3 years. So there were some that were, 2 to 3 years out. So I think the devil's in the details. We need to know exactly what type of transformer would be needed for the project and look at the specific lead time for that specific transformer.
So I think we have a pretty good guess as to the size of these projects
Yeah,
from a planning perspective.
right, we'll get into, more detail on these two opportunities, because we have items 5 and 6, which is to talk about each of them in sequence. But as we're going into this, we have to be eyes wide open, that it's a factor, and it could cause a delay in getting anything actually out the door.
Can we also make a quick comment that this is why getting to town meeting with these projects this year is important, so we can get these transformers on
Yes.
order,
Well, like,
rather than, losing another year, so to speak, in the whole procurement cycle.
so I guess the only other comment I would say is at the landfill, that's where Dave's already talking to the current vendor, because if we update all those panels, that's gonna increase the size of that site significantly, and they might need a transformer for that purpose only. So he started the process, but I think to Laura's point, devil is in the detail. Every project you have to understand what it is.
Right. Okay.
Do you mind if I hop in here quickly?
Yes,
I just wanted to ask from last meeting, I was under the impression that the White Pond ground mount is a potential third site. Am I misremembering?
No, you are not incorrect. I would consider it to be a distant third. It is a third site, but I would call it a distant third. The factors over there that concern me more than anything is the very public nature of the conversation that will be necessary in order to get that done. It's right there along the road, and it is across the street from a neighborhood, and we would have to navigate that. So I'm putting that farther down. Now, if it turns out that that's much more doable, because we can add a chunk of solar without having infrastructure impediments, that's something that we might want to consider.
Well, we might lose both of these projects that
we're
working on,
So
so.
so we can't, I'm not putting that down, Gavin. It's just, for the moment, I'm considering it a distant third, and we can reinvigorate it if one or both of these wash out to keep mixed.
I know it's a smaller project as well, so it wouldn't be as beneficial for some of the megawatt numbers that we want towards our goal, but if there are transformer issues, it could be a good smaller project to do.
I would just mention that Charlie may remember that during the last listening session that we asked from the public about different potential sites for solar, the White Pond location received more negative feedback than any other site.
From the whole town, or was it just from over there?
From the whole town. Well, I mean, many, it was both residents and it was also people who use the White Pond facility for nature reasons and hiking and running and things like that.
Because there's a large chunk of town-owned land that's back there along the coastline of the pond, and so people do use it.
Well, that's an interesting discussion for town meeting, isn't it? So, see what people have to say about one versus the other. I think that's what we're here to do, is to air this stuff out.
Yep.
Not to prejudge things based on the scanty data that we have.
Right. So Gavin, to your point, it's absolutely a live possibility, but at least I don't want us to try to bite off more than we can chew. So I started with the two that I thought would have much lower levels of resistance, and see where those shake out. And if we have to pull one back up, we will. So anyway, so let's drop into the discussion of CCHS, and I'll just give you an update about what I've been about, because I took a to-do item from last meeting to try to open the door with the school committee and just make them aware of what's going on. To that end, I sent them a preliminary letter saying that we would be very interested in, creating an array, a ground mount array between the BD, in the area between the BD Center and the parking lot. It included an overhead shot, an estimate of about 3.9 acres, about 0.9 megawatts of power, and, a reasonable amount of detail about what it is we were interested in doing. In that initial email, I said, we would love to be on your agenda for the 24th of October so that a discussion can occur. And by the 9th of November, which would be their next cycle meeting, they could make a decision as to whether or not they would permit this to happen. They would authorize some process to get going. They would authorize a certain area of that space as being a target space, and then we could open the door to creating a project, and we get going with them. I then, since I was not on their agenda, I just showed up and kind of reiterated this letter in the public comment window. And when I did that, I was asked by Court Booth, can you please provide more information? So I did. I then went back and pulled out the Cadmus report, which some of those things are in your meeting packet. So I pull some of that up. If you've seen the meeting packet, you'll see some of the pages that were relevant that estimated how much energy could be generated, where solar panels could go. There's a shading image that would show if you don't take these trees down, this is how much shading would occur, and this is how you would be limited. And then there are two specific alignments that were at the back of the appendices showing how the panels could be laid out in the space. And all of that was provided to the school committee after Court Booth requested further information. Since that time, I've continued to do outreach with the superintendent, with the chair. We're not on the agenda. We're not yet on the agenda for the 24th, but I'm holding out hope that we can get on the agenda for the 24th, because we need to have some confirmation from them that they're a willing partner and that they are going to authorize us to try to do this. And if we can't get there, then what are we doing? So that's kind of where I am. Now, in terms of further detail,
I guess Dan is going to ask a question. I know that we're looking at it for short term, and it might be that in the short term they're not ready to make a decision, right? But they may not be ready to make a decision, right? So maybe they're going to be very hesitant because they want, I don't know, more committee discussion, more, I don't know, figuring out what they want. But it's also true that long term we want it. I guess we should just be mindful that even if they say we're not ready to talk,
right,
you're still on our list.
But,
So,
even if they're not ready to talk, and even if they don't make the cut for the short term, we have to continue to do all the exact same stuff.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, okay, so we're calling it long term. Well, fine, we're going to continue to work. We continue to push the same stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay,
I'm
good.
not disagreeing. No, just let's remind them that they're still on our list.
You're still there. We ain't going anywhere.
right. We're not going anywhere. To that end, and what would a process look like to get something like that done? I reached out to Henry Dane, who was involved with the development of the BD Center, and he provided me with all of the paperwork that was, that allowed the BD to be built at all. And that is the first piece of that puzzle is something called an intergovernmental agreement between really the district is like the Vatican. It's like the Vatican within the state of Concord. And so you have to have an agreement with them that allows you to do anything there. And then there were a couple of other things because there was a third party involved, which was a nonprofit group called CC Pools who did all the work. So then once the town got an agreement that the town could create a swim and fitness center, they then created they sublet the development of it to CC Pools. We will probably not do that, but if we were to get involved in a PPA, we would need that extra level of paperwork where we're
we wouldn't need it. The CMLP would need it.
Somebody would need it.
We would not need it.
Well, it would be necessary to get the project done.
Right.
It would be an agreement that this thing, which the district has granted us a right to, which is basically an agreement. And the one that's for the BD is literally renewable every 25 years. It could just go push and then they just go to blow the building down. I don't know, but it's renewable every 25 years.
But within that envelope,
Yeah.
they have total responsibility,
Yes.
they have total jurisdiction.
They
It's
do.
not like,
The town has
it's
total,
not like the
total.
school committee is coming over and saying, hey,
No.
what's going on here with,
no,
you know, you're not letting enough kids in.
it's been
right?
granted under certain terms and those terms are spelled out in great detail. What can be done on that space on that lot. And, you know, and once the building is done, what can be done inside of it, et cetera.
So this is the instrument that gets us out from under the school committee that includes two towns. Where the school is the aegis of the schools that includes two towns.
And the school
Once we
committee,
have that signed off.
Yeah.
Then we can go in partnership, obviously, with the CMLP and so forth. And put together what needs to be done to make the project happen,
Yes.
but. To get there, we need this agreement, which is extensive.
yeah, it's
So
like a
what we need to-
25-page
Well,
agreement.
what we need to do at the meeting is to get their commitment to proceed to
To
work that up.
proceed to work up one of those. Yeah, work
Right.
up one of these. So that's what I need to get from them. And right now, that's 2 cycles off. And I'm hoping to be on their agenda for their next one is Tuesday, the 24th, I think. And then after that, it's like November 5th or something like that. So those are their next 2. So if it's November 5th and then like the Thanksgiving one or whatever, maybe they skip one, I don't even know. We'll be deep in and not have enough time to get anywhere. So I'm fine. Do what I
So
can.
Dean, are you saying that this, who has jurisdiction over this area that you've identified between the BD Center and the parking lot? Is it in fact this BD Cools or is it the school?
Oh, it's the regional school districts. It's the regional school district.
They own the land.
They own the land and the BD, they govern the land. That's right. I don't know who owns the land. That's a good
Don't they
question.
own the land?
The town owns the land. Yeah.
They govern the land. Anyway, that area is fully within their jurisdiction and the BD is segregated and separate and totally separate land. So if we wanted to put, say, stuff on top of the BD, I think that the town can just go forward because we already have the intergovernmental agreement to do what we want over on the BD. You know,
But to make things simple, we're starting out fresh.
we're starting fresh.
We have some templates, but
Yeah,
we're
we have
starting
templates.
out with a clean sheet of paper.
Clean sheet of paper. So, but that's down the road and that could probably take months to get pulled together. And what we need is sort of memorandum of understanding that says, we both agree to work one of these up and get this done. You know, it doesn't have to be as detailed. We got to work out the details, but that's going to take some doing. So, anyway, that's kind of where I am with that. And what I was trying to get to in item 4 is some level of assurance that we're not wasting our time or spinning our wheels, that we are going to have, you know, if I push them and we get an agreement that we can actually execute, you know, that we will not be stuck 3 years with a transformer order. That's
Well,
Sounds like
these
it
are the
might
things
be
that we need to ask, to be discovered.
Yeah.
So we need to basically say that the objective is between 0.9 and 1 megawatt.
Right.
Of solar at the high school, and we should start now to scope out the transformer and the transformer issue.
Right.
And the lead time and all this kind of good stuff.
Yep.
We should just do that. I mean, I don't know that there's a big issue there. Is there a big technical issue in figuring that out, Laura?
No, there shouldn't be, from my understanding, no.
That's one item. So the other item is that's the big on the unknown category,
Right.
is the storage thing.
Yeah.
You know, we were operating on it, we have been until we heard the results of your CMLP meeting. We have been operating under the assumption that we don't have to make an investment in storage, but you know, it seems to me that we probably will need to look at that whole end-to-end thing.
Yes.
Including the curtailment and the control of curtailment and so forth and so on.
Like, you know, one really down in the weeds problem that I wince at is they literally just repaved the road through there. And did we overlook an opportunity there to put more underlying infrastructure before the new pavement went down?
Oh, you can run it down the side of the lawn.
And,
Why not?
I just, I assume that, yes, Brian, a guest speaker.
Yes.
He's a guest peanut.
I just want to suggest, to remember the concept of front of meter systems and back of meter systems. So when there was the discussion about the 50 kilowatts and anything over that needs energy storage, that is a policy that affects customers. It's not necessarily.
Use the net metering.
That's what we understood.
That's what we understood.
But when you talk about projects here in town, it doesn't necessarily require that it follows that policy. It's a case by case basis because the utility is the one making the investment, making the decisions. So they're going to be the ones that engineer it to their needs. Okay. So I wouldn't get too hung up on this site needs this much storage. I would get more into this site can fit this much generation. It's on this circuit. Right. Now, what would then start to add at the last part, ask what about storage?
Well, we're there already.
We're already there.
We're done with that.
I know.
We know we've got between 0.9 and 1. That's where we want it. We know exactly where we want it. There are issues with, well, we can do about 4 trees. And we know it's not behind the meter. Definitely not.
Yeah,
It's directly grid connected. There's no school committee gets nothing out of this. Carlisle gets nothing out of this. That's the only way we can proceed.
Right.
Unless we want to talk about that. If you want to talk about that, I don't believe that there's enough money in any of this stuff to be, paying tariffs to various entities. So that's my take. But these are business terms that I think we're very close to being able to sort out. What do you think, Dean?
Similar to CMS, right?
Well, CMS was approved by Chris Whalen, put together a warrant article long ago and far away. I don't remember the number. Brian might know the number, but it doesn't matter. And in that, he had a whole laundry list of town properties, and the town voted to provide rights for the light plant to go build solar on these sites, and the Sanborn site is one of them.
And then the components of the negotiation.
Oh,
Right,
yes,
so there's
memorandum of
maintenance
understanding.
issues and all those.
There is an
components,
existing one for
there's a-
Willard and there's
Right,
one for CMS.
Well, those
There
are
is
all
a-
those-
Getting back to the comment I was trying to make, I think we need to get down to the showstopper issues and get those assigned out. So one of them is the transformer. We should be able to figure that out now. Okay, we should get on that.
And then,
You don't think so?
I don't think Dave is ever going to spend money on a project that's not funded. And because transformers are not cheap.
No, he's
Well,
not
no.
gonna buy it.
We have to
Find out.
size it and get the cost. We have to know what this
Like
stuff
it
is.
to the warrant.
And the
This is, we need to have financials. If we're gonna go to town meeting,
But
you wanna come up to the table here?
I very much do.
So, okay, so,
You guys don't want me to that.
no, we kinda know, I think we kinda know what we're doing here. I really
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Here's the question that.
jump in if you think we're not.
The 0.9 is maxing out all.
That's,
capacity, right?
yeah, that's about 3.9 something acres, rough cut. But it also means that we are pretty much saying these trees, any
They're all
tree in
coming
that
down, right?
space.
Yeah, because it started, there's like a 0.367 versus 9.
That's right. There's a whole
So-
line of trees at the edge of the parking
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
that in the shading diagram show that space could really be less opportunity, or less opportunity.
Cadmus
Yeah.
had an
You know,
estimate
it's
of
not-
0.9 as well.
Yeah.
No,
And
no,
that's
that
the
was-
high end.
And that's what
Yeah,
they
that's the
said,
high
it's the
end, yeah.
high.
That's
So
the
if
high
we're
end.
talking
Yeah.
high is 0.9,
Yes,
that's the max.
that's the
what we
max.
say
About
everything
0.9 is not bad.
Yeah. that's
Yeah, it was had about 9, but that also said, you replace all these trees which will grow taller with things that will not grow that
Yeah,
tall,
that's-
shrubs and other low
Yeah,
stuff.
that
and we're
makes
fine.
sense.
Well, to be clear then on the transformer, I think we should specify a low end and a high end for this transformer issue and get both of them.
Well, I understand what it would take to support it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I guess that's a question.
That's a question, yeah.
Yeah, Laura, can I ask a quick question? So if we are looking at transformers and we know that the BD might eventually do something, would there be one transformer that would handle that whole parcel, or would you put a transformer per solar installation? So say we get the the drainage area as one solar array, and then 2 years later, BD decides to do something on their roof, does that mean we should have upsized the transformer in the first place so we didn't have to buy a second one? How does that work per, parcel or per solar array added to the transformer?
So I can't answer that specifically for this scenario in terms of whether they would recommend one or two transformers. What I will say is that, the nature of the needs of the system is constantly changing. And typically what you want to do is right size the transformer or upsize it a little bit so that you're not incurring a lot of additional losses on the system from a too large a transformer.
Okay.
And then at a later date, what you do is you swap transformers around. We do that typically on the system anyway now. If we find a transformer is too big for current needs, we'll downsize it and upsize. So, the supply chain issues have complicated that because it's not as easy to interchange them. But in general, you're not trying to plan out for 5 or 10 years of growth.
Okay. Yep.
You're really
Yep.
trying to right size it for losses.
Okay, so but if Charlie, if we identify what BD is and what this storm drainage area is, we should just have that, knowledge. So to Laura's point, choose a transformer size for the specific thing we have on the docket right now, and then in the future, assume that, we will need something else or need to change it out. That's all.
Well, there's another consideration. I don't know how this plays into this, but the BD would be behind the meter for the roof.
Yep.
So we're gonna have 150 kW on the roof and behind the meter. The system in the drainage area is
In front.
is grid connected.
No, it's a good point. So BD basically would try to use their own solar, and so it wouldn't actually flow back out to the transformer, conceivably.
The BD, I think, trying to manage their own island of expenses, and
Okay, good point.
so I don't know. That has to be sorted.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so on this, I think we're gonna continue to believe until we have further word on the, the transformer availability, the sizing and the availability. We'll call it 0.9 megawatts at the high end. So you were suggesting we have two different sizing.
Well, I think we could, if we're gonna do this work, we could get a range because we might get turned down in terms of the sizing that we're recommending for the school. The school might say, no,
You can't have all of that.
Can't have all that. So,
You can't.
we ought to pick a low end number. We ought to look at the space, pick a low end number just for planning purposes and get a transformer number for that too.
Okay.
Is that?
I think it sounds reasonable. Yeah, totally reasonable. To do. But so Laura, to that point, we're not looking to have Dave, start placing the orders, but we do want to. The main thing we really want to understand here initially is the lead times on these things, and whether we have to, if it's like 3 years out, we may be taking some of these things off the high priority list because it's not something we're going to get done right away.
Understood. So what do you want to use for the low end of this range?
So let's move on for now.
Wait, no, we don't want to move on yet.
Okay.
We're gonna do a motion and all that, I thought.
Okay, so let's do one thing. I'm still pursuing getting the school committee to buy in to the use of this space. And it would be helpful for me to be able to go back to them and say that we have taken a motion to move this project, forward, and that we are
Feasibility.
we're trying to move forward to a feasibility phase, and we are in favor of moving to a feasibility phase. I mean, the feasibility items that we've identified tonight are, little transformer and, the scaling of the land. So I guess I would like to see someone offer a motion so that I can then, come to the school committee with some weight behind the things I'm telling them. That's anybody got anything I can recommend? What do you got there?
Well, unless somebody else wants to. I would simply say that the Solar Task Force recommends that the at the CCHS retention area between the parking lot, between this high school parking lot and BD, consisting of approximately 4 acres. It be considered, as top priority for move toward a full feasibility analysis by the committee and by the town. For purposes of getting to town meeting with a proposal in December.
A second for that motion?
Is that
Second.
reasonable?
Totally reasonable.
Second?
My only comment is to get it on a warrant article. I mean, I'm fully in support of it, but if you say that, I might just stand off to it. But I'd rather you say that we voted to move forward.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, let's change it to drop the, just drop the, in preparation, drop that out of there. One less.
So you're gonna revise your motion to say,
I would revise the motion accordingly.
okay, we're gonna have to come back to the videotapes and when.
Well,
we
I
get this in-
would revise, I think that's good. You don't want to scare people that we're jamming them with this town meeting thing.
For the timeline, yeah.
That it's to get to feasibility is what we want to put this into feasibility process.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Well, we're in discussion since it's been slightly revised, but anyway, we're in discussion of the motion. My concern is that really what we, by saying we'd like to move to feasibility, it doesn't have any teeth that says we'd like to get your buy-in to the site.
Well, isn't that part of feasibility?
I guess it's part of feasibility. If they won't give us the site, then I guess.
Let's face
it's
it.
not-
We did feasibility for the school. It was all about, well, okay, who's on board for this? Do we,
Okay, all right,
what are the
so
votes? What are the opinions?
Fine.
Blah, blah, blah.
then okay, I'm good.
So we want to be really clear about what this was. I'm just trying to put you in.
Well, I'm just letting Phil know
All
that
right.
he's gonna have a recording of this that he can
Okay.
refer to, so he can take his time to transcribe anything. in minutes. But
Dean, do we need to basically put words that, we authorize you as chairman to do further outreach directly to other town committees and the school department related to that? As a group, do we need to, signify that you are authorized to do that?
I
I
think
like
that's
that.
a good amendment to this motion. I think that's a good amendment.
No idea what's a motion.
I started to write it.
Well, to summarize, I believe the motion that we're currently considering is that the solar task force, in furtherance of its goals, it would like to treat the catchment area between the PD and the parking lot as our highest priority project possibility. And we are voting to move to a feasibility study of that opportunity. And we authorize the chair to do outreach with boarding committees in furtherance of that.
Good.
How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
All right, so that's my summary of what I heard.
We had a person can't think of it.
That's not part of the
It's like-
process. Are we ready for a vote? Is there any further discussion of this motion? I guess we're ready for a
Well,
vote.
how about, Laura, you okay with this?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just taking some notes. So I think getting the buy-in from the school is key because issues we've run into in the past have been this very thing between the governance of the school district and the light plant, being on different sort of planes. And I think trying to get early on, on to an alignment of the two organizations' goals would be very important to the success of this potential project.
That has been my guiding light, Laura, and I started last week trying this, but I think that having a motion behind me will give me a little more wind at my back.
Well, let's
Yeah.
are we good?
Let's already been seconded.
It's been seconded.
So I'm gonna
More
call
discussion?
the, I think we've had
Have discussion? Okay,
we've
good.
had discussion. I'm ready to call the vote. Okay, So, Steve, how do you vote?
Aye.
Gavin,
I
Wendy,
Hi.
Bill,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
and I vote aye. It's unanimous and, so declare.
Now, before we unleash you to go and meet with all these people, maybe you want to have a little bit of discussion about some of the parameters on this. I don't know whether you do or not, but
Well,
for example, you know, we're not going to be providing tariff payments out. On
no,
this thing.
I think that's unlikely.
Well, so these are some of the,
I'm not intent on.
we ought to pool the issues and we ought to deal with them quickly, post haste.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to get halfway down and have confusions about things that the committee is going to be not so supportive of.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So
So one of the
that's
things,
one of them. And Carlisle doesn't get anything out of it either.
so one of the things that could be, a reasonable model, even though it's not in the form of an intergovernmental agreement, would be the memorandum of understanding that the light plant has with the
CMS.
with CMS.
Right, that's-
And that would be kind of a baseline. This is what we're doing.
Mhm.
Let's talk about what we did at CMS. Here's the MOU from CMS. Are there any things about this that you would not want to see in an intergovernmental?
You have that MOU?
I don't, but I'll get it from Brian after.
Laura, is there an MOU?
There is, I don't know the contractual structure of the agreement, but there is an agreement of some sort, yes.
So is this something that you can get us, Brian?
I have not seen it. I have Willard's, but that is outdated. I can send you a video of Dave and I talking about Article 21 with the school committee and how that will go.
Okay, well, let's cut this short. Maybe we would like to ask you to formally request that for us on behalf of this committee. You're the chair over there, so we've got the right guy here.
Laura.
She's our.
Oh, Laura, okay, oh, right, Laura's liaison, maybe, okay, so Laura, if you just take that on and.
If you could
And,
forward,
you know-
if you could forward that to me, I can liaise then with the school committee. And we'll use that as sort of a foundational piece of the conversation. The folks on the school committee are very well aware of the back and forth that went on to get the light plant in over at CMS. So, just mentioning that there's an agreement that has certain terms in it, and we'd like to probably use a similar kind of agreement with the district would be a great starting point for that conversation.
I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, liability.
I know, indemnification.
Indemnification,
Okay.
fees, transfers of money, all this kind of stuff, so.
I fully appreciate that, but, so if you can, yes, Bill's got his hand up, yes.
Yes. As I was musing in the hospital bed, I actually was thinking about our work. But as you would expect, thinking, I had no papers with me,
Right.
thinking about it at a more fundamental level. And I'd like to share with you my musings, see if they resonate or not. Past attempts by the town and its committees have all been failures, meaning not a 1-watt production resulted.
Since 2014, that's, yes, since
Yeah.
2014, okay.
And so
Except for CMS.
that's not
CMS
part
is
of
making it,
the
yeah.
committees set up for this purpose. CMS has done some interesting work. So I asked myself, why? And here's what came to me. You may or may not agree. As we saw at this meeting, there are an incredible number of details that have to be dealt with. And getting lost in the weeds and losing sight, therefore, the big picture is a very serious risk. And so I asked myself the question, what could we do to drastically reduce that risk? And for what it's worth, here's my thought. If we decided that this committee was set a short-term goal of within a stated period of time, let's say 2 years, we would build X capacity as a minimum, say 1 to 2 megawatt. And that we would ask town meeting to provide the necessary support by filing a motion. That would set a high-level objective. All the people we had to talk to saying, well, here's what we're committed to. We need your help. That was my musings or whatever it's worth, because there are an incredible number of details. Very easy to get lost in them.
Well, just to set the table, we have a goal like that, and that's by 2030 to get to 11 more megawatts, to get to 20.
I'm talking about a short-term goal.
Well, we have
of
a
1 to
short-term
2.
That's in our charter as
We have
well.
a short-term goal to get to 2.5.
By,
Well, we want to get 2.5 in front of the town meeting. Therefore, we haven't scheduled it out yet, but I would say a couple of years. You say a
well,
couple of years?
the couple of years is an important statement. In other words, it's by whenever doesn't mean much.
Well, we're not.
By
I'm not sure
2.5
we're there
years
yet,
or
but
2
we can
years
say
makes
that.
a lot of sense.
Well, I guess we could say we want them installed. Can we say we want them installed within 2 years?
I think that would create,
What do you think, Dan?
help
Is that
create
important?
the momentum that we need. At least that's my thought.
So here's my thought about that. Okay, it's in our charge to create some momentum for the town. That's in our charge. Okay, but I don't want our committee to look like something that is just hell bent for leather and running roughshod over the town saying we need to do this. Okay, I think that if we just show steady, continued pressure and urgency at every possible opportunity, that will create the result you're looking for without setting something and saying, we set a goal, why aren't you on board with it? We set a goal of this in 2 years. You need to get on board because our little 5-person committee of a bunch of greenies here in the corner of the Kives Road building thinks we need to do it. We don't have that kind of footprint in the town, so we're just here pushing.
You may be right. My own thought, which is based on experience in industry, is that where explicit time-based quantitative targets are set, they are often met. And when they're not, they're not.
But they're not pulled out of the blue.
No,
So,
but well, yes, they are. Yes, they are. I started 4 companies.
Well, you have your vision and your goal, and now you're gonna end up getting into some tactics and details, right? So that's what you build.
No, right now I'm not particularly inclined because what we're doing and as a committee is we are exploring all possible real opportunities to build solar in the easiest possible way. And if there are still things that cannot happen, like a transformer takes 3 years to get, then what's our deadline going to mean? Okay, we're going to do everything we can to get that built.
Well, for instance, as an example, that may force us to switch from project A to project B.
This is what we've already discussed.
Right, exactly. So,
well, maybe I can help with this.
Please.
Problem here. I think that we're doing the right thing in terms of feasibility.
yes,
In terms of sorting stuff out, and this has got to be organic, and it's got to be detail oriented, because if it's not detail oriented, we're not going to know whether it's real or not. You got to get the poop.
we agree.
Right? So set that aside. Now, in terms of for any of these projects that do turn out to be feasible, I think it would be our aspiration. This is an aspirational kind of thing to have these installed within 2 years. That we would go to town meeting, I think, so that ought to be discussed, but I think that, the notion is that I wouldn't be happy with any more than about 2 years, we go to
2
town
years
meeting.
is what I had in mind.
We go to town meeting this year, hopefully, or no, we get warrants and we go next year to town meeting. We get the funding, we swing into high gear, we get the procurement going. They got another year to get it installed, get through all the contractual stuff, and that's 2 years. But that's aspirational. That's not a hard goal. That's what we want, but it's not a hard goal.
I guess the only difference, the only difference between what you're saying, what I'm saying is you use the word aspirational and I use the word goal. But there is a
well,
difference.
you were a little bit on the, we're gonna go around and tell people, you know, type of
No, I'm
thing.
saying, here's the goal we set for ourselves.
Yeah.
We need your help. For what's worth.
I was gonna jump in here, sorry.
Okay, yeah, sure, go ahead, Deb.
I was gonna say, I think that makes sense. And just to put a bow on this section, I think anything coordination that we can do with any other committee, and in this case, the school board, is gonna add to sort of maybe our clout as a committee, not just being like in the corner of the Keys building, 5 of us, you know. So I think it is right to go with cooperation, even if it takes longer. And we have to maybe be a bit Machiavellian about it, but I appreciate this approach.
You appreciate Phil's comment, you said. You appreciate
I was saying I appreciate what Phil was saying, definitely in setting the goals. But I think our goal now as a committee just is to cooperate with other committees and get on as much as we can and as best we can, get on the warrant and take it from there. We can set our goals depending on how the warrant and the town meeting goes.
Well, I would not be unhappy setting a goal once we have a willing partner. If we don't have a partner, what's the point of the goal? It's to me, it's like putting the cart before the horse. You get to the point where the school committee says, in principle, we want to do this with you. Then you set a goal for everybody to get going
For that project.
that project. You set a project-oriented goal to build that facility, and that's
Is a light plan a candidate for that goal as a partner? Could we jointly have a warrant article, or is that just not in the cards?
well. My sense of this, in rough terms, my sense of this is going to require some capital outlay, and the money got to come from somewhere. And it is likely that if there's a capital outlay to build an array at the high school or a second array at the landfill or one of the two, that capital is going to flow through the light plant's books, and they're going to take on a debt issuance or some, dipping into existing funds, which is unlikely that will happen. And then that's going to go back to the ratepayer. The ratepayer is going to end up paying for it. So to do that, you would need something on the warrant.
Let's just say that Light Plant is our premier partner.
They're our premier
End of
partner.
topic. They are number one.
And should
partner.
we therefore seek to have them jointly?
They're here.
They're right here.
They're here.
Laura's here.
Dave comes to all the
I
meetings.
understand that. The question
Brian's the
is,
chair.
should we formalize it or attempt to formalize it so that jointly we go to town meeting with a common warrant?
Well, it will.
Can I say that I think we're really off topic here.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think we are.
I don't think we know. We're rambling all around the place. I appreciate the
high level thing.
the high level stuff, but I think we ought to get an agenda item for this and,
Happy to do
come
that.
back next time and you want to propose something, that's good. That would be good. But I think we ought to get back to what we have on the agenda. We have what? Hour and a half left?
Yeah, we slid through.
Sorry.
Slid through.
Yeah, I think, we gotta get.
So we will have an agenda item until next time when we talk about goal setting. How about that?
Fine.
Okay, all right, no, it's fine.
So I was suggesting before Phil made his comment that we need to get the items on the table with respect to the school thing. So that and that we need to get through the policy stuff as a group here.
Yeah.
If there are any things, and
with any luck, and it seems like it's a dim chance at this point, I can get on the agenda on the 24th
Right.
of October, which is before our next meeting. So, we don't really have too much of an opportunity. It will just be a generalized conversation that I can conduct at that point, which is, here's the space we're looking at. Here's an MOU that was crafted with, for CMS. We will probably look to similar language, and we're looking for this area to work within.
Mhm.
Can you guys agree?
Good.
And then get them to say yes, get them to
Okay.
yes.
Good.
Okay, now getting to yes, let's go to item 6 on our.
Ah.
A great segue, getting to yes. The landfill site is really bollocksed up with the fact that there's an existing implementation over there, and it's kind of reaching a critical state where the inverters need to be replaced. The panels are 10 years, they're almost 10 years into their life cycle of about 25 years. And so there's a financial potential for literally replacing all the panels with more dense energy generation with newer panels. So that's the existing site, and we're looking to expand to a
Virgin site.
a virgin area of the landfill. So what I'm hoping we can figure out is how do we make a decision as to how these two things dovetail, and how do we just treat a new implementation over there as a isolated separate system with all of its own infrastructure and its own transformer, and let that other one just spin on its own axis. And if we want to buy it out, if we want to replace all the stuff, if we want to wait for the inverters to be replaced and then buy it out, that's a separate conversation. If we want to treat the landfill as one of our high priority projects, we need to find a way to get to a definition of the project.
Well,
That's
so
the problem.
we talked about that at the last meeting, right?
Right.
And that we wanted to do our best to max the site in terms of coverage.
Yep.
And that there was some consideration for upgrading. And then we had the obstacles like you just said, like the transformer and so forth, inverters. I think that what we need to do is we need to have a comparison between buying out and simply letting a PPA run with this thing, or let the existing third party run with this, upgrade it, and do all the kind of good stuff that they would do, and give us a number. But I think we need to compare these two things. So I think, I don't think we as a committee can get too involved in this PPA thing, other than to hear what Dave has to say about it.
I'd like this to be a separate arrangement,
What?
right? I'd like to see it, like us not get in the way of the existing infrastructure, just let Dave run with it.
Right,
But
well, with the
we want
existing
expansion.
infrastructure,
Right.
leave that over there. But you've got some points of crossover, like you've got
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
you've got the inverter, or maybe the transformer, you've got
Yeah,
some
definitely.
stuff.
No, I definitely.
But I think I'm totally with you. I don't think we want to get bollocked up in upgrading panels and doing all this kind of stuff. I think what we want to do is focus on our 1.5, focus on the incremental on the inverter, and whatever transformer expenses there are prorated to us, and be done with it. I think those are going to be our numbers. I think that's what.
Yeah, no, that's where I'm going. I think
That's where
we
you're
should-
going. Yeah, that's what we
we're waiting
want.
for Dave.
Makes a lot of sense.
We don't want to get bollocked up and tied into a bunch of stuff that we can't see into, because it's none of our business. If Dave has a super deal, to do some great stuff with the third party, and that's the way to go, we get the expansion and we get to continue to have wonderful prices and so forth. Well, knock yourself out.
So, Laura, I'm going to ask you whether you're aware. Dave mentioned at the last meeting that he was looking forward to a proposal from, I don't know whether it's Kearsarge or somebody that was going to make a counter proposal for.
As of the last time, it was 2 weeks.
It was 2 weeks.
No,
2
it
weeks.
was,
Two
no,
weeks
it
later.
was Tuesday, because I sat. in this
Okay,
meeting, like,
2 to 3,
we're not
but-
gonna have it next.
Right.
No, but that means next week.
But
That means next week.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, listen, I'm asking Laura what the status of that is, if she knows.
if she knows.
Yeah, so Dave gave me an update this morning. He said that we have not gotten the proposal back from Kearsarge. So we don't have anything to report on that. He did remind me that one of the proposals will include battery storage there. And then, although you have not asked me, I am going to give you my 2 cents about this.
Still important.
Please. Yeah.
Okay, so, history has shown that the entity with whom we have our current PPA at the landfill and at the W.R. Grace property, Kearsarge, is extremely profit motivated. Based on the numbers I've seen, you know, they've baked in anywhere between 20 and 30% returns on their investment. One of the reasons we went with a PPA structure in 2013 when this was being negotiated was because as a nonprofit, we could not take advantage of the tax credits. That has changed. Okay, so in today's world, we're not at that disadvantage. The other thing I will tell you is that that existing deal with Kearsarge has a very ugly payout provision where they insisted on negotiating, okay, here's what you're going to pay in year 20 to buy this system from us. But we don't have to buy it. It's still our option. It's just got the price set. And the thing is, if we choose not to buy it, they have to dismantle it, which is so a cost to them. This is like the ransom of Red Chief. Okay, so either we pay them, $8 million, which is way overpriced for the system depreciated after 20 years. Or if we don't do that, they have to pay $1 million or whatever the number is to take it down.
Or renegotiate.
In 2025.
No, if the project's only been, it was put in 2013, so it's only been 10 years.
Right.
I think it's
What's
a
the
20-year
duration?
deal.
Yeah. Okay.
So my point being that, my advice to Dave is you walk this thing in and stare into the whites of their eyeballs. You tell them, absolutely not. I'm not paying $8 million to buy this facility. Go ahead and dismantle it. Right? I mean, we're not going to pay the pre-negotiated price. It's ridiculous. Anyway, this counterparty is, in my opinion, difficult to work with. And so I like the idea that both Charlie and Wendy, I think I heard you say, let's treat this incremental opportunity as a standalone that the utility would own and operate. Let the Kearsarge deal, with all its hair on it, play out the way it's going to. And I don't think we should pay any more money into it, than we need to. Now, the downside to that is, could we be getting more solar out of the landfill today if they were to upgrade those panels, right? And replace the inverter? And the answer is yes. So if we want to benefit financially, we might shoot ourselves in the foot a little bit by not getting as much solar out of the property as we otherwise could. But, we have to do the right thing by the ratepayers too. So that's just, my 2 cents on this. And I don't think Dave would have the same answer, but I'm here today and he's not. So there it is.
Good answer.
It's a good answer. It's clean.
Yeah. I would prefer clean. A clear separation, because that way we have a clear track and they can go off and do whatever they want whenever they need to do it, solve their own problems. My only question is, if we do as this standalone, do we have our own transformer and we just work as if, for all intents and purposes, we could be across the street someplace? Or do we have to tie into their transformer to connect?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, it's our transformer at the end of the day, so.
Yeah, that's the light.
It's our stuff.
That's the light plant's transformer. So.
The issue is with the inverter. Would the inverter be upgraded to support the old Kearsarge stuff, or would we say, hey, we're doing our own thing here. You're on your own.
I think you stay separate all the way down the line.
Well, we want to discuss this through a little bit right now, I think. So
We should get the results. I mean, I don't know.
I think we've made some progress with our discussion tonight, which is to kind of keep these things simple. That was the biggest thing I had on the table.
That's exactly
So why don't we
getting to yes. That's like, how do we get?
why don't we bring up the list of things that we would need to take this thing?
Can I ask just one other question while we're looking at something? So, Roy, do we know if they replace those panels, what the increase in capacity is going to be?
30%.
But that's what they're going to come back with,
There
right?
are 300 watt panels that they have in there now.
So I just remember, one of our goals is to get to 20 megawatts, right? So we do have an interest in what that.
Well, you get
potentially
30%
is.
of 1.7 by upgrading, something like that. I don't know, Laura, you probably have better handle on the numbers. But if we
So
went,
I actually haven't been part of this conversation, so I'm not familiar with what has been represented as the uplift.
we don't know what that is.
Well,
So,
somebody knows, but I just don't happen to be that person.
In,
I
in
would
any
expect Dave to
case,
bring that back,
in
right?
any case, we're looking for either a cost-effective solution with Kearsarge or going our own, but
I
the
think we're
word
looking to go our
cost-effective
own
is
way
essential.
and freeze them out and make them get their act together and either give up or, you know, or join in. I think.
But
that-
regardless
To
of,
figure that one out.
But no, we're going ahead. We're going
We're
ahead.
going with ours, yeah.
We're going with ours. We're
Upgrade.
gonna do our own thing.
we don't need to explore any non-cost-effective solution, period.
Well, the only reason why I mention it is what Dave said in our last meeting was, if we do upgrade the existing, that contributes to our overall 20 megawatt goal. So I was just
Yes.
trying.
Oh,
Yeah.
do upgrade, it would,
It
yes,
would, yeah,
absolutely.
so I'm just saying, we shouldn't forget it. I mean, yes, I think.
But
But
I
is
don't,
it cost-effective?
practically speaking, I don't think we can spend much time talking
No,
about
I
it.
don't think so.
Because that,
It's really, Dave's managing that.
perfect world, we would do it all exactly right. We would have people around the table,
Okay.
kumbaya, all this kind of good stuff. But we can't do that. We don't have time.
Well,
All right,
we
so-
know-
We'll be dead.
Let's, Charlie brought these, items up at the previous meeting, but I'm gonna share them on the screen for the moment. We can just go through them quickly.
These are things that we're quite dependent upon the light plan.
Right,
This is what you asked Dave about and you sent. it.
Yeah, these are
Yeah.
things that
Okay. Yeah,
oh,
we
are
already
these the
talked
things,
about these.
you don't have the colors on those. Is that the old one or is that?
that's the one, I think that's.
That's what you
Okay.
said.
All
right, good,
I got that out of your email, Dave.
Okay, great. Funny,
Yeah,
the colors disappeared.
yeah.
So,
So,
can you read that, Laura?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Oh, it was in the packet too.
yeah, it's in the packet.
Yeah, I can read it.
So, you know, we're trying to assess what the actual, remaining size, you know, spaces that we can put this on. So we're not sure how we're gonna get to that number. And I'm not sure Dave's any expert at doing that either, so I'm not sure how we get to that number.
Can I make a
Well, he
suggestion?
asked them to quote what the max.
I think you're gonna need, I think, again, based on the notion that we're in this, we can't depend on others.
Right, okay.
I think we need to figure out a way to get somebody in to deal with these questions. And that is like, go to SDA, spend 10 grand, whatever you gotta do, let's do it. Let's get going. And I think the notion of, these are the questions we need to answer. We all agree that we wanna do this site. What's the problem? We gotta find this out.
We need expertise.
Now, I'm not gonna walk around there myself with a measuring stick,
No.
right?
I don't think there's any.
Well, you don't.
don't.
I get poison ivy. I get.
So this would, you know, this would require a small contracted, you know, effort on the part of an expert solar developer to, you know, to help us with this. So we need to find a sugar daddy to be able to pay for that if you want to get SBA or somebody else in there to do that.
I was gonna say, what's our authority to pay anything?
Right now, we have to put out our hat in hand to the select board and ask for help. That would have to be something they can find discretionary funds for. I can do it. I'm happy to do it.
Rather than utility bill.
Right.
You would.
I would-
I think we want you guys to
Is
do
there
it.
some discretionary?
This is what you guys do.
capacity that they have?
Yeah. That's what Laura does. Yeah.
What?
Laura doesn't want to get ticks either.
So with the middle school, for example, the light plant put up, bring a little less than 100 grand to have Solar Design Associates draw up what it would look like in real drawings. That's so a project kind of goes through this idea phase for quite a long time. And then when the town gets serious about it, like they did with the middle school, then they actually hire an SDA draw up plans of what it should look like and how it should be built.
Actual engineering.
Actual engineering plans, but that does cost money.
Yeah.
And that's a risk because the utility is gonna spend that money on developing those plans. And then if the plans don't come to fruition, it's just lost.
Right.
Value. So what I suggest is hearing from Kearsarge on the proposal. And then when we see the proposal, getting Dave and Laura's opinion on is it a good deal or a bad deal? If it's a bad deal, then continuing the existing PPA with Kearsarge and tell them you have to, under the PPA, replace the inverters, keep it operational. And then we can spend the money on designing some plan.
Laura thinks we know the answer to that question already.
Okay.
That
You're
is,
smart, Charlie.
that is a no-no. Kearsarge is not gonna cut it.
So you think that
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Maybe they'll come back with something and they'll surprise me because they know with the IRA, we can get the tax credit ourselves. Maybe that will be the outcome, and I hope it is, but I wouldn't bet my pony on it.
yeah, but if they come back to us with a bad proposal, we're just gonna ask them to update the inverters and keep operating under the current PPA, no
All right,
replacement of panels.
so I would say that's a good plan. Let's get the proposal. I would say we also ought to figure out how to put a ribbon around this and get this in a slot and get an estimate of what it would take to do this. This is just the front end of the feasibility stuff. These are not big asks, but we can't do any of the sizing and financials and stuff that we want to do. Do we have this? And, you know, if we get delayed on this Kearsarge thing, which is likely, then we're behind in terms of getting this basic information. I'm not saying we should run off and pay somebody to do this quite yet, but I think we ought to get ourselves in motion to get this thing cooking.
As long as it stops short of spending money in SDA, I think that's something.
As long as it stops short of
putting that money at risk. As long as it's
putting that
Well,
money,
that
which I'm
means-
not sure what
I
your
mean, we have to be
construction.
confident to go.
Well, we don't need construction plans.
Oh, no.
We need something at the level
This
of
is
the pictures that
early
CAD makes.
feasibility,
Yeah.
early feasibility. This is way less than
This
what,
is something we could do, Laura and you guys, I mean, this is not
Well-
something that we need.
But to get
Spend
the
money on it.
accurate land size.
well, what's the uplift on,
I mean,
going, the
Design.
uplift to build on a slope, on a landfill top? Yeah, we don't know that.
That's the engineering drawing.
That's the SBA, right?
No, I don't think
It
it's
is.
80 grand. No,
They
this
could give us a
stuff,
rough
this stuff
number.
should be
It's just
known.
This is like
This stuff, they're
15
experts,
cents a
they've done this
kilowatt.
stuff before.
over $1.50, it's $1.65 because you're on a slope on a landfill cap. You know, we're just
Yeah, don't-
looking at, you know, for expert advice, you know, it's not, doesn't have to be-
Well, let's see which are the things here that are problematic. I can't read the thing from a distance.
Lots. So what's the remaining developable property? You have an engineer that's what? I mean, that's an engineer.
Well, it's mostly.
So we need to know what based on the aspect and all this kind of stuff, are there any
Right.
productivity issues with respect to those slopes?
I
How
know
much
what
of that
you're
wraparound,
Yeah.
pardon me?
Right.
I know what you're asking.
Okay, so
I
you think Laura just knows how to do that?
No,
Okay.
I think.
No. I can't figure out what the cost uplift is gonna be for
Something
the
that I
slope
think would cost
development.
about 20 grand.
Well, Laura is speaking, I couldn't hear her.
Laura,
I said, no, I cannot figure the cost uplift for the slope. That's not in my wheelhouse.
So,
What are, you got critical components and cost trade-offs and all this kind of stuff. So
right, which an expert is needed like SDA. And so
right,
you can get a rough, like what you guys are doing right now with looking at, GIS and land area to understand what size array roughly could fit.
Right.
That's kind of like the idea. But then if you want to actually get, quantitative details, you gotta go full SDA.
there has to be.
There's no middle ground.
Yeah,
on that.
there
There's
has
no
to be,
Cadmus
there has to be a
level or-
middle ground. There has to be we have a relationship with SDA. And they should be able to do a middle ground for us after all the dough we've spent over there. And I don't know that I don't know that we have the credibility to scope this out and do what you're saying. I just don't,
Right, so
I
what I'm
don't
saying
think we
is.
do. So I think that we got to cut out a certain amount of dough and say, well, let's see what we can get done for, on these questions for 20 grand from our really good friends over there at SDA. And they may have to cut us a little slack
Well,
I'm not
to
sure.
get the
I-
80
I'm
grand.
not sure.
what I can do.
What did you
I
say?
know
I don't know if you-
that's me.
What did you say?
I said, I think that's hard to ask.
What
To
is?
ask them, go do, help us size a different project, SBA. I mean, they're completely committed on middle school, and I get it.
Why is that a tough ask? They've got a big group over there.
I just think it is, it's a contractual
We
thing.
can ask and then. we
Because
can
of
pay the
that.
fee for it.
Why would what conflict would be there? What
Well,
would there be?
nobody wants to do anything for free, I guess that's.
Okay.
No, this wouldn't be for
This is
free.
their
This is,
business.
this is a
business
contracted
consulting.
deal.
They don't
Right.
do that.
This is a
Right.
contracted deal. We're
So
gonna.
you're
we're gonna-
saying, you want them to do a small thing, but what Brian is saying, for them to do the right thing, it's bigger.
I don't agree.
Would the
Exactly.
magic of using the term preliminary estimate solve that?
Yes.
Yes.
Whatever you want to call it, we've done it.
It's a rough cut made by experts in the field, which we are not,
Right.
and they are, and we pay them for their.
No, they don't have
expertise.
They don't have to come in and do engineering drawings for us.
No,
I thought the first pass from SDA was pretty extensive based on the fact that we didn't have,
And we paid it, yeah.
All right.
Before.
by
Well-
the way, their numbers were no different than the numbers that we came up with our own little tools. So,
okay,
They had credibility.
so,
They had design
That's
detail. They were construction ready to be bid by different installers on it.
yeah.
all right,
That's the 80 grand.
Well, so I guess we're coming back to this. Do we want to kind of get booking on this and get pushing on this or not?
okay. Our actual appointing authority comes through the select board. I can talk to Carrie and I can talk to Mary, who's our liaison, and see whether there's some kind of middle ground that we can work through and say, what can you offer us, SDA, at this level, like this number? What could you do for us against these questions at this number? And see what they say. They can only say we can't do anything. There's nothing we can.
That is the right approach. Now,
Well-
I think what we want to do,
We're a town.
what we
We
want to
have this
do,
much money.
what we want to do is we want to avoid spending 100 grand on something that we don't do.
Yes.
We
Yes.
want to avoid that. So SDA, help us figure out how we can get through the first hump,
Right.
for a significantly less amount of money, with less detail, and with some of your sort of high-end, experience, scoping.
The term I've seen used quite a bit is a budgetary estimate.
Okay, that's
I like
fine,
that
that works, a budgetary
Yeah, it's
estimate,
different.
that's fine, whatever. we
So,
want.
so now getting back to the Mary thing, why can't they just do this at the light board?
You have the chair right here.
Well, I'm just, hey, come on, I mean, well, why, if the CMLP is supposed to be doing this stuff, and we agree that this is what we want to try to do, why do we need to go to Mary and, Carrie and so forth?
We don't need to go there, but if I go there, they could turn around and Dave works for Carrie and say, Dave, this appropriately belongs in your bucket, I'd like to see this happen. So,
So you think you need to go there to find that out?
well, I'll go through what I'll call the channel, like,
Yeah,
this is our
okay.
appointing authority, and that's my.
That's all right,
my
that's all right. I think we know where this thing should go. It
Yeah.
should go over there to
Yeah,
to Brian.
I agree that it should.
And
that it
you
should.
can go take that step, that's fine.
So,
We know the answer.
well,
We
we'll
do.
see. We'll see. if she can
It's
be
been
true.
browbeat enough.
What did you say?
We've been browbeat. To do it.
Well, quite honestly,
We weren't volunteering you to do that. You were.
I know.
Yeah, you're saying I would.
Well, I'm just saying we don't really have any budget.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
anything I ask for is literally like out of the blue. We don't have a budget to do this, but it's a highly technical area for which some expertise is required, and I don't have any problem making the argument that we use a little bit of scratch to get something done.
That we could use encouragement to the CMLP to do this.
Yeah,
We don't want anybody else doing this other than the CMLP.
No,
You know, if we had a proposal from Kearsarge that we had details behind it, said, oh, well, this is, and it just turned out to be too expensive and we felt we could do it ourselves. I would have no problem putting that money at risk because we could go to town meeting and say, here's the design. Please fund us. You probably get the funding. There's a likelihood we knew we were going to go again. Right. If we saw the light at the end of the tunnel, I'd be willing to say, let's talk to Dave, let's talk to SDA.
Okay, I
Prior
prior to
to step
Well,
one.
go do it. Go do the Mary thing.
But are you saying you think we should do that
Yeah.
first? That's what I thought.
No, but we can
Right.
go talk to Mary now with the caveat that we're
But-
gonna hear back.
but you might hear
We're
back
waiting
from
for
the
this.
town,
We
never
don't,
mind.
it doesn't have to be sequential.
We're waiting for this to come in, but I want to put this on your listening
On the
queue.
hopper.
You get it in the hopper, Mary. We may need a little help here. And, Kearsarge could come back with enough detail in their proposal that we could then take that and run with it, but it's quite possible that we may need a little help.
And Mary might want to talk to Dave.
Yes. Anyway, one way or another.
Yeah, I like
So that
this.
works, right?
Great, no.
This.
So,
Okay. All right. So, we're kind of run over quite a bit here.
what else we have on,
And this continue to share. And, what do we have on the agenda?
what do we have left?
we
I
have-
think we can't do anything more on the landfill, I don't think.
I don't think we can, but I do think we have a general agreement here among ourselves that if we can keep it isolated and segregated, that is a cleaner and
Yeah.
easier project for us to use as a high priority project.
And doing whatever we can to progress it.
Yes, we're doing what we
Yeah.
can to progress it. Exactly. So, back to the agenda, which is, I don't know what it is. It's some of it.
Dean, before you jump off, assuming that we're looking to get some sort of engineering input on the landfill, wouldn't you also potentially want to get it on the retention basin at the high school?
I think that's less necessary. It just seems like it's a straightforward space. The piece of
Okay.
the puzzle there that I need to clarify, and I'll do some outreach on this, is I need to talk to Alan Cathcart about whether or not there would be any constraint on kind of putting stuff on top of something that's going to operate as a drainage basin. That there might be some public works concern. I don't.
There might be a code
There
thing.
might be a code thing. I think it's highly unlikely that that would be anything to be worried about, but I've got to run under his nose and say this was engineered to accept and infiltrate water. Water will still come down from the sky, and there may be some, minor puddling periodically in that space underneath the panels, but it will then infiltrate. So
You have enough information, engineering information and budgetary information to go to warrant if they said they're interested?
Go to warrant?
Well, to go to town meeting, if we're saying we need all this information to get something ready to go to town meeting on the landfill, do we have the same level of information already for the high school basin?
Like, do we have to drill holes?
Well, no, do we, it was studied before, so we know what the capacity might be.
we are not right now. I think let's just put the warrant off to the side for a minute, but right now let's take the model of last year's warrant article for the CMS arrays. That was put on the warrant at $13 million, if I recall.
Because it had.
It was just a big number. And by the time they arrived at town meeting, they had much more time to work through the engineering and then come with a realistic number to the floor of town meeting.
Because we hired SDA.
Right.
Okay.
So all I'm saying is that the same thing could hold true where we're putting something on the warrant as something of a placeholder with rough idea, but big enough to get the job done. And then we hire SDA and we're
Okay.
in mode and bring a realistic number to the floor. So let's just, I'm not trying to oversell the warrant, but there's enough skittishness about debt around here that we have to be kind of.
Yeah. No, I just thought are we tracking two, or are we putting the landfill as our prime horse and everything else will follow?
Well, we got Steve talking there.
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah. No, what I was saying is if we're gonna focus our effort on the landfill, are we saying that the high school is sort of the second horse in the running and we're not gonna move it along other than ask the district whether they're interested because we don't need any more information?
We're moving both of them along, but here's what I'll say. The landfill has real technical, non-obvious questions.
Yeah.
Whereas the space in front of the BD is very meat and potatoes. Let's put
Okay.
it, it's not a complex, it's not a complex problem. There's no interaction with other stuff. There's no, the grade very modest. And so the stuff that's going on over at the landfill is just more complicated and requires real technical.
Right.
Is anybody looking into public financing? Because that, of course, numerically makes an enormous difference to the extent it's available.
Well, right now, we can get 25.5% discount on any indebtedness that a municipal authority takes on, even though it's a municipal bond. The investment, whatever, the Inflation Reduction Act gives a general 30% relaxation, but if you're a municipal authority, because you're already getting tax-free debt, they kind of take something off the top and you only get 25.5%. But it's a pretty good subsidy. It's a very good subsidy.
I want to come back. We didn't finish up what Steve was saying
No, what was, what,
About-
yeah,
Okay,
about
so are we
technical.
doing both of
about
those?
going to town meeting and not having your act together around technical issues regarding that those soils and the current use of that's the retention basin. I think we need to have the appropriate sign off that is okay.
No, yeah.
And I don't know where you get that from.
That's why I said I gotta reach out.
We have to get that. And I'm just
It's
saying.
October, I'm gonna reach out to
I'm
Alan.
just saying that Steve's comment is exactly the same comment I made, which is, this is the thing you don't want to lose on.
Right.
Joe, you don't really know what's going on with that.
So you're starting that conversation.
I think that's right. I
So you're
agreed
good.
to talk to Alan and see, we gotta start somewhere.
That's
Fine.
right. So if we have to do more, we'll do more.
We'll do more.
Yeah.
If that turns out to surface some kind of a thing that needs to be done,
Yeah.
then we'll have to do it.
To our knowledge, has any other town done something essentially the same, in which case we can just ask them?
I'm not sure. I mean, we built a parking structure over a wetland behind what's now Nosh,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea how that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was.
That's a beauty.
That was a beauty. So how
We
that
can do it. Yeah.
But there it is. There's a parking structure over a wetland, a literal wetland.
Yeah.
And that was a real mystery to me because I used to be on the NRC and I looked at Celia and said,
But I'm not
"What-
sure.
how are we looking the other way on this?"
I'm not sure I heard an answer to my question.
So
Well, this again is, I'm not sure that go have that discussion, whether we're gonna have any credibility with the answer or with the question. I think, we need a little engineering input on what's it gonna cost to build on top of something that the state here in a prior years said you couldn't do.
Unless there's a precedent.
There supposedly are precedents, but I don't think we want to be checking into the precedents ourselves. I don't think that's for us to do. You, Brian?
I just think if you guys are going to town meeting, asking for funding for these projects, you've got to do.
you gotta have everything buttoned
You
down.
gotta do an SCA level,
It's got to be engineering stuff.
right?
Yeah.
And that,
Charlie pulled up so-and-so, and they said it was no big deal.
and that will answer all the
No.
questions about it well and everything. As long as all of this needs work to be done like 1 month before the hearing, on the article, you're okay.
You got to be able to answer the
You gotta
question.
be able to answer the question.
Oh, yeah.
So
Good.
I want to just move us along to our item 7. We don't have a tremendous amount of time left in the meeting.
Did we
and-
skip 6 again?
No, 6 was a landfill. We just spent a lot of
6
time.
is the
talking-
criteria for public-private partnership. Another an old one. Sorry.
Well, I have one that's called 7. I have 7 twice because I didn't get the thing right. But anyway, 7. I had this idea here that we would break out into work groups and focus on these individual things so we can make progress. Because to have us all sit around a table for 2 hours and then go away for 2 weeks,
Right.
and then I spend time talking to Lori or talking to the school committee, or Tracy Morano, or talking to Mary and everyone. we need to make offline progress. Now, it's been pointed out to me today, when somebody else read this, agenda, that a work group is considered a subcommittee, and a subcommittee has to operate under the full aegis of the open meeting law, and so a work group is probably a very inefficient way of getting anything done.
Or illegal, yeah.
Well, it's not illegal, you can do it, but it's so inefficient, it's just as inefficient as this. So, so my thought was that we work independently and bring back, work products that we each individually bring back. And I think we need some focus on the two priority projects. I'm not bringing the Plainfield Road one in yet, but the two priority projects, and we need some closer look than me just forwarding it to everybody at the model I sent out.
Yeah.
I did get some good feedback from Dino, what God's last name, Donatos, whatever. He recommended adding a few lines just to calculate IRR and net present value.
Yeah,
for that
that's what I
model.
was saying.
Yeah. So you sound like an excellent volunteer.
Everybody step back, please. So Sheila.
Okay.
Good.
So, Wendy, if you would be willing to look at that model, add net present value, add IRR, it's a pretty straightforward model, and we can scale it based on, just take a look at it and see what you think.
And so if I have questions, I can't pick up the phone about these. I could go talk
That's
to
a
Laura
great-
though, because.
So
she's
if you
not
have questions,
a member.
you can, I'm sure you can call other committee members up with questions.
I think that's okay.
Collaborating on work.
Well, this is kind of collaborating. I might be talking about.
Well, there's a fine line there.
Yeah, that's actually, I'll have to review it and I'll get back to you. I got 3 examples from the AG that Kari Tari sent to me today, and I've only read one of them. And I just need to know like what the finer points are. We are not allowed as a committee to establish some group. And if we establish something that's more than one person, then that becomes a formal subcommittee of our committee, and it needs to be an OML compliant entity. Yeah, I know, it's a lot. It's a lot. If 2 people want to just go off and work together, you have to post meetings, create minutes, have agendas, the whole.
And that's exactly what Paul Boehm said he's doing.
Is that what he's
Oh,
doing?
yeah, he announced it to everybody at the library. I've got work streams for those who are not committees, it's not subcommittees, it's work streams.
Work streams. Work streams. Work streams?
Yeah, you don't want to call
Do
them
the
work
same
streams.
thing
What
we're
you
doing
wanted to
in
call them work groups. Yeah, that's what happened there. Maybe we call them work streams.
Well, I'll talk to Paul about how he's kind of dancing on the edge there. I am intent on talking to him, and we'll go to the
It's
next.
just so.
The MSBC building committee had an executive committee.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna take that to executive committee. They
Yeah.
had 4 or 5 people that
Yeah.
put all the agendas together, decided that they needed more money and, what the escalation rate was. and
So
forth.
Charlie, I have a suggestion for you, since you're so invested in already creating these comments about the landfill that you work on, continue to work on the landfill.
I'm very happy to do that, Dean.
Okay.
My
And-
liege.
And I've spent some time working on CCHS just by trying to manage these relationships. It's a relationship
Yeah.
thing at the moment, and we're trying to figure that out. But from a technical perspective, it would be helpful if we slice the bologna a little thinner and have somebody else working on the technical aspects of CCHS, which Steve was pointing out. We don't know that much. We just have a kind of rough cut on how much space is there, and we have these pictures that are in the meeting packets and cabinets. It would be, I don't know how we detail out in any more detail what CCHS could get us, or how we can go forward there. To me, it just feels like a very straightforward ground mount system.
Extremely straightforward.
You know, that you just go to the NREL website and say, what does it cost to put up, you know, this many acres of ground mount? And just get an estimate. What's that?
No, you won't get cost out
Would
of
you
ground,
put it in the
you
swell
just get,
itself?
you just get output.
You get output, you can use their model for output, you can, you know, so what are you saying, Mr.
Sorry,
Guest?
I just, you said ground mounted, and you're talking about the swell at the high school.
Yep,
The whole point of the swell is to retain water.
that's right.
That would be a flooded ground mount.
Well, it would only,
This
it would
is
be,
the technical question, okay?
how
now you're-
high would
now
the
you're
water
getting
get? And would it ever get anywhere near your basic stanchions?
But, you know, would it ever snow high enough to get on the, up into the canopies at the middle school?
Oh, at middle school, no.
Well,
canopies,
okay,
though.
well,
They're not ground mount.
yeah, but you could get
Canopy
snow.
and ground mount
You
are
could
different
you could
things.
get snow that went all the way up to the canopy at the middle school.
If we
In the
have
same way
that,
that we can get water that went all the way up to the. I'm just creating an analogy here.
we
It's a
would have
technical question.
Technical question?
really.
Oh,
Anyway.
this is the technical question
It is.
is there anything that would cause concern to anyone with respect to the technicalities of putting solar in a swell?
Brian, you're the
Are
one.
there
who-
issues? What are the issues?
Brian proposes putting solar on lakes and ponds.
Yeah.
Which is water. So,
But they have flotation.
well,
Yeah, but-
Well, maybe we'll have a conversation here.
Yeah.
Um, Dean, to cut to the chase, I can help you on the high school technical side if you want to slice me a piece of that bologna.
thank you. That's the slice.
Yeah, we're done.
I'm gonna be working on the MOU and getting the school committee aligned with us, and you can work on any of the technical pieces of that. I don't have any other assignments. I was hoping to put people in groups of 2 or 3, which is how this agenda was constructed. And, you know, is there an extra slice that we could select? Could we cut the landfill into two pieces, Charlie?
I don't think there's
Gavin kick
two
it in,
pieces
or-
yet. I don't, there's
Is there no
the
two
second
pieces?
piece yet.
So Gavin, you're relieved of duty.
Well, you could be looking at the third possibility. Is that-
Look
You
at
can
the-
look at White Pond back
Yeah.
in the background, or
You know,
Yeah, I can do that, or maybe longer term. You know, we have on our 2-track short term versus
Yeah.
long term plan.
Yeah.
we've kind of spent our meeting this time on just the track that we're on, and yeah, we kind of pushed that to the back. And I think we're kind of towards the end of our meeting, and I'm willing to kick the can down the road on 7 prime here, which is
That's
criteria.
Which is what?
Criteria for public-private partnership.
Well, okay, let's just throw out what the idea is for that.
Right. Yeah.
The idea and it'd be great to hear Brian's comment on this. The issue is if we have a commercial behind the meter system, let's say it's half a megawatt. Is there a way that work that is done can be construed as a part of a partnership with the town, or what would the town have to do with skin in the game? And one thought was, gee, you know, for example, for the Baker Avenue situation, if they committed to give us their recs, then I think it would be reasonable for us to say that counts toward our goal.
Give us the next
Give us their recs
for free.
for free.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't they?
Well, normally, well.
No,
I
normally
guess
we
it's-
would what?
I mean, it's a good question. I just don't know.
So I think, yeah, I mean, we're all in this together, you know?
Yeah.
Well, why are they, and I think Dave responded positively to that. He said, yeah, well, yeah, they're not gonna sell the Rex. They're not gonna sell the Rex. They're gonna keep the Rex. Well, okay, they're gonna
Well,
return them. Well, give them to
CMLP
us and we'll
fine.
retire them.
We're gonna be fine. CMLP look good.
Well, no, CMLP is not yet on deck to retire Baker Avenue Rex.
No,
It's their
no,
private
no, it's
decision.
there, it's that.
What?
Once
No.
it's built,
In terms of the plan, in terms of thinking, in terms of the conversation.
I don't quite understand that question though. So you.
Here's the
Well,
question. Here's the
We're
question.
trying to get.
Well, let
to
Dean
20
Yeah.
tell me.
I'll try to propose it. We're trying to get to 20 megawatts, and it would appear that it would be a real challenge, feasibly, for us on town land without a lot of brouhaha to get to 20 megawatts. There just aren't enough sites that are easily converted without either huge expense and or public pushback.
I agree.
So we're gonna need to pull in private opportunities, parking lots, rooftops, etc.
Okay.
And when we do that, there's going to have to be a public-private partnership. Can we count something like, let's say it's Emerson Hospital and Dave's interested in just getting an agreement with them to just put the panels up and have CMLP run the whole thing.
Okay.
Put them up and run the whole thing. Well, that we would absolutely count towards our goal of 20 megawatts.
Correct.
We got total skin in the game there. But if Baker Avenue puts up arrays and they pretty much pay for them
Behind the meter.
Behind the meter, it's behind the meter,
how do we get to credit that towards our goal? We don't have any skin in the game.
The way you define the goal, you can't.
Yes.
That was the district, that was the disagreement we had. Well, we should figure out a way to count it in a way that, that is based on some sort of principle, some sort
Well,
of
that's my
principle,
point, I'm like.
some sort of principle of
Right.
partnership.
Right, so,
You have to have some sort of partnership to
But our-
count it.
Well, the traditional way of doing that, I think, is the utility or the town owns it, but the recipient gets some free power. A certain percentage of the power is free.
When
We don't want to own it.
When you set the 20%
We want them to
goal,
own it.
the 20 meg goal.
We want them to own it and we want to take credit for it.
That's a little trickier.
when you said that you want the goal to be 20 megawatts, what you said was the utility is going to capitalize 20 megawatts. They're exactly the same statement.
I don't
Because you're
think
talking
that
in
you
front of
said
me.
that.
So, that's what I.
No, I don't
Yeah.
think the word capitalized was in the warrant.
Wasn't, but
No,
when
no,
you said
no.
that you wanted 20 megawatts to be done by the utility,
But it's a climate
that's
action
who's
plan.
To be clear, it's the climate action plan, it's not the task
That
force.
the
set
intent
that.
was.
The practical point here is that we want to count solar where we have the attributes. That's the minimum. Where we have the attributes, it counts. Where we don't have the attributes, it doesn't count. I don't know what's so complicated about this.
And what's your definition of attributes?
Attributes is the recs.
Well, that's,
That's-
that Grace and Lancel don't count. Those get sold off.
Yeah.
Well, but that's grandfathered in.
Grandfathered
And they're
in.
covering, they're buying recs to cover
Well,
that,
but you know what, we buy.
right?
We buy
You're
that.
doing exceptions now.
Well, that's a grandfather thing, right?
No,
Isn't it?
no, the 20
No.
megawatts is installed in
Yeah.
the territory of Concord Light. And it's capitalized by the utility.
You're making stuff up now.
No, I.
Well,
No, I think you're right. No.
It's
We're
from-
past-
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're.
I was
you're
trying to
past-
defer
you're
it.
past your comments here.
It's just because you disagree with.
Point of order.
No, it is. I do.
Point of order, I was trying to defer this item to the next meeting, and we ended up in it, and I will defer it.
Okay.
I just really feel like, now, new business, I think, Charlie, you had some comment you wanted to make in new business.
Oh, yeah, on the
Before
BD, we're pretty well set with the BD. I think we know what they want to do. We know, how much they want to do, but, it's them that needs to say, yeah, this is exactly right. And we're ready to take this to our board and so forth and so on. So I think that doing a little bit of consulting with them and then bringing some results back to the committee and getting stuff blessed and then kind of giving it back to them. And when they're comfortable, when we're comfortable, then they're ready to go and ask their board to proceed with some sort of approval.
Where does
So-
the capital come from?
The capital comes from the BD. The BD's
Sawyer
capital,
or whatever they.
and it's a behind the meter system. And in the case of a town-owned behind the meter system, I sure hope that, that the town gets to keep the recs. So, yeah, I mean, they have two questions to answer. One, do they want to do it? What do they want to do? And is that, you know, have we captured, you know, a proper plan? And then, you know, and do they want to, and when do they want to go ask for money? And they have to ask for money through their board.
So one of the
And then they
things,
have to decide whether it's gonna be bonded, whether it's gonna be used cash and so forth. They have to have.
so one of the things we might be able to do for them is run the model.
Well, I was gonna say.
Yeah, no, we run the model.
Run the
But
model.
there's some account management stuff we have to do,
Right.
to
Right.
get them up to speed, get them comfortable, and get them to own it. We don't wanna, this is not our array. This is their array.
Yeah.
We're just doing some consulting, we're helping them, we're advising them. So that's, yeah, we're gonna run the model, that's what we're gonna do.
And do we get reduced cost power as a result
Well,
of that?
this is something the committee is gonna have to figure out with Dave, you know, what is the cost avoidance number? Is Dave gonna allow behind the meter? We haven't gotten through these things yet. So if
They want it.
they want behind the meter, they wanna save money. The whole motivation
Sure,
is to save money. They wanna save operating dough.
But they're putting up capital as well.
Yeah, they're putting up the capital.
You're
so
talking
then,
about half a megawatt of behind the meter?
No, they want 150 kW behind the meter.
Which would require energy storage. If
It might, if that's what Concord Light wants to require. It's a town situation. Is that what they want to do? So
does the town want to use taxpayer money to fund it?
we don't, that's
The BD is the
going a
BD.
little bit further downstream.
they
The
have-
BD has to figure out, they're an enterprise fund. They gotta figure that out
And they have
themselves.
capital.
And they can go to Kerry, and that's on their side of the wall. We're not gonna get involved in that because it's behind the meter. We're just gonna consult with them on
Scale.
the model scale, how to approach this and so forth. We do have the questions to answer though, like, is the town going to allow behind the meter? That's not for them to go figure out. That's for us to figure out with Dave.
Well, our existing rate schedule for general service net metering allows systems with a net output less than 167 kilowatts of AC capacity.
So they don't have
So we're good to go. We're good to go. On that.
No, I mean, we still, you know, in theory, right now, they would still be subject to the 50 kilowatt battery co-location requirement, but
You say it
in
was,
terms of being able to net meter under the existing tariff, the answer is yes.
no, there'll be no net
policies
metering.
greater than 50.
There's gonna be no net
They
metering.
would be consuming every last kilowatt.
There might be a few.
You can go model it. I've modeled it. I modeled it by hour.
Anyway, okay, so that is, we will,
We'll have to come back to
we'll
that.
come back to this and, you know, and just, maybe we should just have it.
Alternative of just-
Well, I've been working with them
We
since
have-
2014 or whatever, so you might as well just leave me on the list for that.
When we get to this criteria,
And then Wendy can do the model.
yeah, I guess I was gonna say, you know, it gets contentious because we want to get to 20 megawatts, but in our chart for this day, we divide it on 20.
We need to do it.
Visible,
Yes,
whether the goal is
Right.
visible. So if we're saying this one wants visible anytime soon,
right.
50 years, and we have in our purview to make a recommendation what that going to be. Because remember what Eric's here, the climate action plan, it's hard for the.
Right.
We're not gonna be able to get to that though for months and months. So
Well, it's gonna,
Well, that's my other.
Yeah.
When and how are we gonna start working on a longer term project?
Yeah,
We need to start working on criteria and have to assign that to someone.
we may end up,
We have a.
I was gonna
one big
say,
Meeting talking.
I was
about
gonna
this.
say, I was gonna set these work groups off so that work can get done. And maybe we need to send people off on individual assignments and try to work on threads for the report, just to kind of, you know, keep the long term afloat.
what is the long term?
The long term for us is a report.
Right.
The long term. for us
Well,
is a
long term is
report.
report, but
But the report has.
And I,
the plan, to get to 29.
Well, yeah, I think this is, you probably don't want to discuss this now, but what is the long term?
Well,
Do we simply continue on ad infinitum to evaluate sites and figure out what it's gonna take to do them? Or do we want to do things like, gee, we don't really have a storage strategy, what are we gonna do about that? Now, that kind of gets us out of our lane, maybe, or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Is that in our lane?
I guess.
How about a SCADA system?
We
Is that in our
will,
lane?
we will take this up at a future
Yes.
meeting. I really,
Well,
we're-
that gives-
I need to shut it down.
That gives you a flavor of what we need,
I know,
what we need
I
to
know.
be talking about, because maybe that stuff is on our list, maybe it's not.
Well, Wendy's point is well taken, which is that for this meeting, we have absolutely just dropped that second thread, which is the actual report that we need to produce. And I was asked at the chair breakfast to bring this right back to the top of the meeting. I was asked at the chair breakfast, what is your due date for your report? And I said,
Because this is what committees do, they do reports.
and I said, we were not given a hard date, but I am pushing to get this report done by the end of the fiscal year. Which is ready in
What, this year?
June.
Oh, June, because I actually, in our,
June is the end of the fiscal year.
in our charter, doesn't it say we do this one for February to the climate action?
Well, I
MLP as
I have to give periodic updates to the council.
Oh, I see.
I
Kind of
think
like what
that's
happened with Brian.
okay, the cake, whatever. Yes, I can
Right.
give periodic updates to the cake. So yes.
I give updates every meeting as well too, so they're informed.
Maybe
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't-
you're the man.
Maybe
We
I don't have to do
this.
anything.
You're-
Maybe I
you're
don't
there.
really have to
You're
go in
there.
front
We
of
have
it.
an updater.
Yeah, we have
Skip that.
it's all good.
But we shouldn't put this in this way.
So, I don't know if we have anyone other than Brian Folds, here. That he's been commenting
already made his
all along. So, if anyone else is on the call and would like to offer a comment, it is time for the public to weigh in. Seeing none. I
make a
think I'm
motion that
looking
we
for a
adjourn.
motion. Can I get
Second.
What
Can I
time
get a
are we
second?
supposed to wrap up? 8:30, right?
30?
Yeah.
Good deal.
We're close. So, do a roll call because we have participants far and wide. Gavin, how say you?
Here.
Steve,
Hi.
Wendy,
Right.
Phil,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
and myself, Dean. We are adjourned.
I'm not sure
And
you have to
Wendy, I
do
need
updates.
from
You do?
You have to